So today I have on the Mite Beekeeping podcast, I have Craig MacCorkle with me from not too far south from me down in Philly at Liberty Bell Beekeepers. Is that right, Craig?
You got it.
So it's good to have you on here. Somebody I actually know, been to my place a couple times. What's going on with you today? We had some pretty nice weather.
Yeah, and once again, thanks for inviting me out to your place. It was really great to see it up close and personal after, conversing back and forth on, Messenger is one thing, but when you actually meet someone in person and get out and see, it makes a way bigger impact for sure. Today was good. Go ahead.
Yeah, we actually met over Messenger, right? Because when you first got into thinking about getting bees, you had no intention of being a treatment-free beekeeper. I don't know if you were aware of it, really, were you?
No, honestly, I really had no idea about treatment-free beekeeping. Anytime anytime you type in basic beekeeping or beginning with bees or any of those kind of things, it's not very long before you come across treatment videos. It's usually within the first couple, and it just became kind of a normal thing to see and a normal thing to prep for. When you get a dog, you get a leash and a bowl and toys, and when you get bees, you get the boxes and you get foundation and frames and you get treatment. It's like it was just blatantly out there, and that was all that you saw. Now, getting a little bit further, probably, I got to credit talking to you first again because of the amount of research that I did after speaking to you. I don't think anybody getting into bees really does enough. I can't say anybody. Most people really don't do enough to really understand before they jump in with the bees. And I think what was evident is I saw some pictures posted from the Western Conference, and it had all the registered apiaries in Pennsylvania, and it looks like chicken pox. Actually looked more like poison ivy on your arm than it did chicken pox. I mean, there's so many, and after being on the bee pages and different groups, you see the level of or the lack thereof, the research and some of the questions that are asked. Now, I can understand, a new beekeeper or someone thinking about it asking a question like that, but this is someone who has bees. They installed the package or bought the nuke, and they just did their first inspection, and they're, wondering what the liquid stuff is in the cells. It's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Just not that I've ever seen that question, but they're just the level of lack of knowledge. It really amazed me. So after speaking with you, it was actually the question I asked was, I was thinking that treating my bees as soon as I get the package, because there's nothing in the hive. It's brand new. It's just a cluster of bees. Is that a good idea? And you were one of the first couple people that said, why do you don't have to, or I forget exactly how you answered it, but it basically.
I remember it. I mean, knowing me, it may have come off, a certain way, but I probably just said something like, you don't have to get on that treadmill or something like that.
I believe that could have been, yep.
And most people will right away just get offended or just shut me down or whatever. But you kind of went into messages with me, and we started talking, and we got along pretty good. And I don't normally, offer so much information to everybody, just because there's a lot of people that are constantly asking for things. But me and you were getting along, so I was just like, well, first, do me a favor, don't buy bees. Remember that? That's what I always say. Yep. But I think you may have already ordered bees. So
I had bees. I had a package ordered. Yep.
Yeah. And we just talked about swarm trapping. And as I can understand, you were skeptical about how many free bees you could actually get. And you ended up just blowing the whole season out, just getting a whole bunch of free bees.
Yeah,
in your first year.
It was really nice getting into that swarm trapping. And even before that, though, going back to the treatment free, how I even came about that, you led me to that research. Is just amazed at how much was there. And really, it makes sense. It makes sense. You can't coddle something along and pretend like it's going to be okay forever. Like it'll get you by, but it's not a forever solution. And in those forever solutions, there's certainly going to be pain, and if so-called losses of bees. We can use that term just because everybody uses it, but there's always that that other side that I found that showed it's possible not to do it. I mean, a Ron Hoskins video, what's it, the Swindon bees in the UK, or maybe Wales, I forget where exactly it was, but they found, he never treated his bees, and his bees been going for 30 years. He's in his 80s now, and he's still begging for money for research, research money. But they tested his bees, and they found that viral load. One virus was over and above all the others, and it kept them all in check, and his bees lived just fine with mites. And it's like, well, that makes sense. That's kind of how it works with parasite-host relationships. And, that to me was enough. That was enough evidence. It's like, wow, well, that can happen. I know it takes a while, and it's going to take some work, and you got to pay attention. But then that leads you down the other rabbit hole of, okay, now what do I got to do to be more like that? What do I have to learn to get more into that frame of mind? So once again, thanks so much for pointing me in that direction. And now I'm an avid proponent, because there is quite a lot of research, and being to your bee yard was perfect evidence.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a pleasure, and I'm very happy about someone who takes it and runs with it and does well, and is a good example, and isn't buying bees and not feeling the pain when selection happens. It's just part of it. And just from looking at your updates, it looks like you're doing pretty darn good, way better than I did in my first couple of years. Just with what you're ending up with so far. There's still some winter left, but it looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, I had a couple more dead outs that I found, but they were small. They were small going in, and did well up until very recently. And I believe they still have some honey stores. I guess it was just, who knows? I'll open them up and take a better look and try to get an idea. But, it happens, and I was totally expecting it, and that's why I did what I did, as far as getting as many as I could. Getting as many as I could, because I knew I wasn't going to keep them all. And, I always like to bring it up to people too, when they try to, overmanage the bees, and trying to make this perfect bee with treatments and everything else. And telling me, you could wake up tomorrow and these bees could be gone. They do it all the time. They just pick up and go. So, if you're trying to make this one perfect bee colony, you're in for probably a rude awakening, especially if you're on the package and the package treadmill from down south. So
yeah, and I was
gathering as many colonies as I could, and following, I basically followed your advice with the bee yard as far as keeping the colony small. They were all went into winter with 5-frame deeps and a 5-frame medium super, at least I guess I could say maybe 75%. There was several that were single boxes, and I have a couple that are doing well as single boxes, but only a couple left. The last two that I just mentioned, they went in without supers, and I don't know if that played a part or what. But sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay. This winter right now is being a little weird to me too. I'm having, last winter we had negative 22 degrees for, it seemed like, almost 2 weeks, and I didn't have any deaths at all. And this winter was nothing like that. And I'm having some deep selection going on here this year. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it at all. I already know what's going to happen come swarm season. But I was thinking earlier today about how you can never have a sure thing with most of the bees that you got. You don't know exactly where they came from. You don't know how
No.
many winters they came through. And some of them are gonna live and some won't. But even when you came here and got a nuke from my yard, I was trying to give you like the best chance ever. I gave you an overwintered daughter of my favorite queen on my yard, and they took off, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
They have bonded sometime sometime I think in October, late October.
yeah. So that happens, but and then
Yep.
the nuke the colony that we pulled that nuke out of, I let them raise a daughter, just regular old open mated daughter, and they overwintered fine. So
Yeah.
it's just strange how just things can happen, but you just keep applying the pressure and not spending money on bees, and I don't see how you can go wrong and have losses.
Well, for me, the swarm trapping just appealed to my nature. I mean, I like to go out in the woods. I love to fish. I love to just hike, take the dogs out. Like, this was an excuse to do all those things, but also build a swarm trap, catch a swarm. I mean, it's cool. I had some up at my dad's office building and his tree, so he was out there checking on them. And I put some in other people's yards. And, I say in my videos all the time that you get somebody, just get them a little interested, and they become a lot interested real
Yeah.
fast. And it's with simple stuff like that, like, and getting back to swarms, my first swarm that I caught was in my best friend's backyard,
In a
and
trap?
in a swarm trap. Yeah, yep, hung it in his backyard, and they were there. I left them there a couple weeks, and I took him out, and he sent me a message a couple days later. He's like, "Man, I really miss having those bees in that tree." He said, "I didn't do a goddamn thing to them, but I just miss having them out there, like coming out and checking them out in the morning while I'm having my coffee and my smoke before work." And I'm like, "All right, well, we'll get you some bees next year. Put some bees back in
Yeah.
your yard." So I'm going to put another trap back there that I think I'm going to give them. You probably saw on my Facebook. I built these custom hives. Out of some old lumber I pulled out of some buildings, some big floor joists that are big 2x2x8s that are real thick. So I built these big heavy walled hives that I'm looking to put somewhere. I mean, I think I'd like to give that one to my buddy and get bees at his place, but it's loaded ground and he's got some young kids, and I don't know if that's okay with him right now, but we'll see. But I definitely want to get one back there and see what these big heavy hives can do.
Yeah, you'll figure something out. But I gotta ask you, do you remember the first trap that you walked up to that had bees in it? Do you get the same feeling that I get when I see that? I, I've had it 100 times now, but when I'm going, down a trail looking for my trap and I see the one with a whole bunch of bees going in and out, I just get all weird inside. I love it.
Oh, it's an incredible sight to see. The first one that I saw, I got there. I got there probably like as the queen was walking in, because it was, that volleyball sized ball right on the corner of the box.
Yeah, I never had that.
Yeah, well, they all kind of rolled up and they were right on the outside of the box, and within a few minutes they were in. So, like I said, I think they arrived before or just before the queen, and then she showed up and they went in. I mean, they were that was about 15 feet up in the tree, and he just asked me to put him up that high, like I said, for his kids. But I couldn't see it exactly, but that's what it kind of looked like to me, which was, and like I said, it's my best friend's house. We hung out in that backyard for forever, and he's a real big garden guy, so he's got a pond and he's got beautiful trees in his yard and garden and all that stuff. So it's just a great surreal, I don't want to say surreal, serene environment, and the whole thing was amazing. So, and then every one you walk up to later and you look out and you see bees coming in and pollen, it's like, oh yeah, it's a great feeling, because you got nothing to worry about. You got bees, and if you're just trying to get honey, great. You can get all the honey you want, and if the bees died, that sucks, but you probably can catch some more next year and get the same amount
Yeah.
of honey from. So if you're only in it for the liquid gold, as they say, you can still do that without without spending the money on the bees.
Yeah. I don't know. now that I think about it, I kind of get the same feeling even on a swarm call. Like as I'm getting out of my van and I see them hanging there and they're not 30 feet up in the air. It's just I get excited about that. It's really exciting. You know, they're free. They could be good bees. They could not be. Regardless, they're going to build some comb. They're going to let me mess with more bees. It's just I love it. I mean, if you don't get excited about that, something's the matter. And I can't imagine swiping a credit card to have a box of bees shipped to my post office. I mean, if you got to do it, you got to do it. But
yeah,
I couldn't do it. I did it once. I couldn't do it again.
It's a totally different experience, and doing the cutouts. Like if you catch more swarms, you got a lot more bees out your way. That there's more beekeepers down here, and there's already guys that get most of the calls for, ones that show up on signs and in trees in the parks downtown and stuff. But I get a lot of cutout calls. Another guy in the area, Alan Latanzi, I believe his name is. He was giving me a bunch of calls. He was doing 4 or 5 cutouts a day, and he was, I think, maybe like an hour west of me. And he was a contractor, and he's like, I can't. I'm so behind on both my on all these jobs because he's doing cutouts nonstop, and he's running a full-time business. So it's amazing. Like, and he's kind of like us. Like, I don't know what he does as far as treatments. I never talked to him really much about that, but we just talked about bees, and he was talking about having to get more boxes because he's got so many bees, and he was excited, and that gets me excited, and talking to you about it gets even more exciting, and then talking to other guys in the neighborhood that I meet, they get excited. So now we're all kind of working this excitement, and it's you can hear it in my voice right now. I'm like, all right, let's get it. Come on.
Cutouts get me a little bit less excited, a little bit less, unless they're nice and low, and behind just one thing I got to pop off. I just admitted, I've admitted it several times. I'm no contractor. I pass those calls to you and to the guy you were talking about. I'll pass them off. I got enough bees, and they want to have fun doing it. That's cool, but I'll take the easy ones. I like doing it. I just don't want to be up on a ladder, cutting somebody's house apart that I can't put back together. And I'll tell them that. I tell them flat out. Say, dude,
that's better that you do say that, because you get into something that you can't handle, and you run into problems.
Yeah. So I cut you off earlier at the very beginning about the nice day we were having today.
Oh yeah, I think I might have cut you off.
I'm so rude, but
it's all right.
Yeah, we're supposed to have a nice little warm stretch, and they're saying that spring is coming a month early or something here. I don't know about that.
Well, didn't I see next week we got 3 or 4 nights on below freezing? So you got to swing from 40s and 50s to below freezing. I think at least we're last time I looked. So we're definitely not out of it yet, and we've had blizzards in the middle of March. So I'm not conceding winter yet. I know it's still here.
Right. Yeah.
But days, like you were saying earlier, last winter you had those 2-week stretches at 20 degrees, and it kind of makes sense that someone brought it up. I think someone brought it up. Might have been Jeff Eichel at the symposium last weekend about that. Being not as efficient because they're using more stores, and they're using more energy, and they're doing all that stuff instead of being just hunkered down in the cluster and kind of stagnant. It provides them more efficiency than these swing days, where they're out for a couple of days and they have to be back in for 3, 4, and then they're out. And that kind of makes a bit of sense to me, that would play a role, in some of the selection that you're saying.
Yeah, but so that symposium you were at, how did that go? I went to a symposium there a few years ago, and it was called the Natural Beekeeping Symposium. Turned out to be nothing that I expected. I got to witness Samuel Ramsey in person for the first time, which I could talk about later. But how was the one that you were just at?
It was, it was okay. It wasn't what I would have rather been in LA with you a couple of weeks ago. That's for damn
Oh
sure.
yeah.
But it was, it was nice. It was nice to meet a couple of people that I've chatted with from the Philly Guild online, and I know Sarah Plonsky, and you know, she does like hornet relocations and wasp relocations and stuff like that too. So she's into more than just the honeybees, and I bought a bunch of equipment off of her because I think she was downsizing her honeybee operation or whatever she was trying to do. And it was okay. There wasn't anything outstanding as far as level of interest for beekeeping into selection and management for selection and queen rearing and all that kind of stuff, which I wasn't really expecting to find there. The one speaker was pretty interesting. I forget his name. He was an inspector a few years ago, and you actually might have interacted with him because I think he was out your way.
I only know one inspector, and let's just move right along from there.
Yeah, well, he was doing. What was his talk was about honeybee, native bees selection for flowers for color. But it had like a little bit of interesting things to it, but it really was. It was okay. It didn't thrill me. Nothing there really thrilled me. The Detroit Hives guys were there. The guy that was there is not a beekeeper. He's just their guy who runs the nonprofit basically. So it was interesting, I guess, a little bit to see how they're doing that and the program that they have for the kids, which was cool. That's great. Get the kids into beekeeping and converting these vacant lots in Detroit, because there were something like 90,000 vacant lots in Detroit, and they're buying these lots and converting them into these gardens and beekeeping havens, I guess you could call it. So that was really the bulk of it. One other guy was kind of cool, but once again, not really anything outstanding. He lived in Philly, kept bees in Philly until he was in his mid-50s, moved to Vermont, keeps bees in Vermont, does maple syrup, so he just was kind of comparing the differences between beekeeping here and beekeeping there, and very, very senior citizen friendly talk and manner. So, it seemed to me like one of those tourist things, kind of, there were some people there that were interested in beekeeping, and you don't really get much of the information that you really need from a seminar like that. I didn't personally think so. I don't think I'd go to one again, because unless I knew the speakers that were going to be there and I wanted to see one of them. But as far as it goes, it was, it's the same reason why I don't go to the guild meetings, because you're not going to teach me anything in that guild meeting that I can't already learn myself in one night in front of YouTube. There's so much.
That is.
I'm one of the millions of people that are putting videos about beekeeping out there. We're one of the thousands that are talking on a podcast about beekeeping. So it's, the information is so available. You just got to go and get it. And the people that are having the most struggles and the most heartbreak are the ones that don't do enough of any of that in order to even formulate their own opinion about what they want to do with their bees.
Yeah, there's so much out there. It's so much to sift through. There's a lot of people that they start a channel very soon after they have bees, and it's okay to do that. That's not a bad thing. It's just, I don't like to see someone having a channel, they got a bleach white suit, perfect bleach white hives, everything's perfect, and they're demonstrating how to do a split or something. They have brand new bees. They shouldn't do that kind of stuff. They should just document themselves learning, and not give too much direction. There's a lot of that though. I wouldn't do it. So yeah, there's a lot to sift through.
I think some part of it is them talking themselves through it because they don't know what they're doing. They memorize the steps, they wrote it down, they memorized the steps, and they have to say it out loud so that they don't forget and they don't do something wrong. It's like, just relax. Pick the frame up, take a look for the little things that you want to look for, and relax. And I know I've heard somebody, he said to me in a comment like, "Oh, it must be nice for somebody who sells bees to tell somebody to just have fun with the bees and don't worry about them dying."
I remember that.
I'm like, I barely sell bees. Like, I sold like 3 people bees, and I know all of them.
Yeah, I remember that.
Speaking
of that, I always bust your butt on Facebook sometimes about how you just chum them waters sometimes for people. As a joke, I say that because you have a right to say whatever you want to say, just like anyone else does. But for some reason, when you say something, everybody just pounces on you, and then I'll come in there and be like, "Come on now, what are you doing in here?"
I really think it's the language. Like, I try to type like I talk. I feel like I can speak pretty clearly and communicate reasonably efficiently with most people. And sometimes if you just, if you're not talking like an idiot, you don't get paid attention to in a positive way. And it's text and it's Facebook, and I don't take it personally. I try to respond respectfully until somebody's being a dick, and then, sorry, but I'm just trying to talk to you and give my perspective on the limited amount of information that I have.
This isn't a censored show, but
no,
I know what you mean.
No, for those people, I'm just trying to help everybody else learn, and maybe I'm saying something wrong and someone can correct me, and I'd be more than happy with that. I do as much research as anybody else. I spent a lot of time with my bees last year. I learned so much in that one season. After the volumes of information you watch online, you retain so much until they're sitting in your face and you feel the weight of a frame. People don't realize that thing weighs several pounds. You think about, oh, they're so light and they fly, and beeswax is so nice for candles. But when you go to pick that whole thing up, it can be a jolt for some people.
Yeah.
Don't realize, how heavy a medium boxes of honey gets. So it really, for the new beekeeper, if they're listening to this and getting anything from it, I can't stress the research end of it, but also the time. You really got to spend the time, and most of the time was just sitting there staring at the entrance.
I do that
paying attention to what's going on. Yeah, paying attention to what's going on. Looking at the frames, watch the behaviors of the bees, watch the queen walk, watch how they respond to her, watch her walking. Maybe sometimes you don't realize it. You just get a quick glance, you let her be, but sometimes she's got a busted leg. So she's not, I had one that had a busted leg, and it turned out she started laying weird. And they pulled her out. Eventually they pulled her out. I went in there a week and a half later, and there was no queen. So it's, those little things that, you got to pay attention to and take a look at, and take a look at those mites. You can, if you got a hive with mites, you're going to see them and anticipate, hey, these ones might not make it, but if they do, I'm going to be real happy.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just me, but I see a lot of people in my, they look at it the opposite way that I do. If the numbers of mites in the colony can vary on 1 yard drastically from one to the next, and not just because of what the bees are doing. It could be for several reasons. But rather than try to euthanize or requeen one that's high in that has a high number. I don't even like having this conversation, but to have a high number, to kill them and not give them a shot to see what they can take, I would appreciate those bees more in the spring than one that's just always at zero, because I don't know if any of mine are ever at zero. I don't care, but the arbitrary counting and grading, it's not working for anybody that I know. They're still treating. So
yeah, you don't see much difference between treated bees and not treated bees as far as so-called losses go. And
well, I wouldn't say that.
They're going to. I don't think it's that much. Really, statistically, by the numbers, it doesn't seem like it's all that much different.
Well,
I mean, you know, honestly, Bruce, I have trouble even talking about this sometimes because I don't pay attention to the fucking numbers. You know, I'm not paying attention to all these losses and percentages. Honestly, I don't give a shit. I really don't care. I know my bees are going to live. I know some are going to die. I know all of them could die. This is the risk that I'm taking with you know, and I don't care.
Yeah, I think the whole comparison breaks down at the very beginning, because you're taking one group that has no help, and then you have another group that has help every single step of the way, and you're calling that group survivors, the ones that are still alive in the spring. I've already said this before, but you can't call coddled anything that's coddled forever a survivor. So it breaks down immediately.
Yep.
Not only that, the other group, the group that I would be a part of, depends on bees dying to weed out the weak.
Exactly.
You can't depend on something and then be penalized for it. I'm purposely wanting the strongest bees on my side to use for the next year. There's no comparison between the two groups. So the whole percent, that's the reason why I say I don't know about those percentages. They may have more alive bees, but they have zero survivor bees. They have no idea. Take March Madness, for example. I was thinking of this analogy while I don't know what I was doing, but I thought of this. If I told you to pick a winner out of 64 teams, you know, at the beginning of March Madness, how are you going to know which one? I would tell you to pick the 4 best teams. What would you pick? And how confident are you that you would have picked the final 4? But if I tell you in week 4 or whatever, when there's 8 teams left, pick the 4 best, your choices are so narrowed down. You now know which ones are the best.
Your odds get better.
The concern with the treating beekeepers is now they lost their investment, their honey, but that's the whole other side that myself and this podcast is not concerned with. We don't care about commercial practices. Do that over there. I don't care about that. I don't care about people doing maximum honey production. That's for all the other shows, or for all the other, any type of platform. That's not what this is about. I'll concede that to them. I'm not a major honey producer. Do I still have honey? Yes, I do.
You don't have to be a producer of honey to get honey. That's inevitable.
Yeah, I love messing with these bees. I mean, I say that all the time, that no one is going to suck that joy out of me by talking about calling my dead colonies losses. They're not. They're contributing to my selection of better bees. And
absolutely.
And also, I was thinking, what if you wanted to buy a queen? You're like, I want to get a good queen. Are you going to go to a yard where a guy has 98% survival every year that he or she props up every year? What is he or she even picking from? You're just picking a random propped up genetics of some bee. But your other choice is some mite bomber like me or you, who actually let selection happen over a few seasons or several seasons, and really just let them get beat down till they have just this whatever they want to think is a small number.
Mm-hmm.
They have this crystallized group of bees that have taken everything and actually survived. They're real survivor bees. I mean, why is that a hard choice?
Yeah, you know, It's hard too, because I think a lot of people they're not able to keep 30 hives. They're not able to keep and do that kind of thing. And they get scared and they figure they just need to treat instead of just embracing the whole aspect of beekeeping, and that includes the losses. That's when, you know, I encourage people to get into swarm trapping. It's fun. It gives you something to do. It gives, you know, you're painting boxes, you're making traps, you know, you're putting them out wherever you're putting them, and like I said, those interactions just make the whole experience better, because now you got a whole new group to, like, oh, I wonder what these ones are going to do, you know, because you never know. You never know what you're going to get uh, from these bees, you know, and it's incredible to see, like that, you know, the video I posted yesterday that you had commented on, where the bees were really active, and I thought it was getting robbed out, and then I sat there and I looked and I was staring and I'm like, wow, that is all orientation flights going on there. And there was a lot of bees coming in and out of that colony, and I was damn surprised. She's going already, and I think that one's going to just be, you know, we'll see. But as of right now, it's got me really excited, and I'm looking forward to see what she's got in her.
Yeah, well,
And
you
once
were.
again, all that was a swarm that I checked it out. That was a swarm I caught in my hometown in a set of old woods. I know that there's beekeepers in the area, so it could have been somebody's queen. I really don't know. I did catch a swarm that showed up at my buddy's house that was a marked queen, but she was an overwintered queen. She came through. She was a 2018. I think she had a red dot, right? That was
Mm-hmm.
2018. So she
Yep.
was an overwintered queen, which now I picked up and I've remarked as, you know, for my records. But I'm hoping she comes through again. I'd be twice overwintered, and I don't know if she was treated the first year, but she sure as hell wasn't treated the second
Yeah.
year.
But your
So
first year, your first season of trapping, I'm not sure how many you caught in traps, but you also went on calls. We won't
yeah,
even count the cutouts because I don't suggest anybody starting out get into cutouts. It's a bad idea. I mean, you could do
yeah.
it,
Well, for me, I'm
but
in construction, so I
yeah, of
have all the
course.
tools. I have the knowledge to do that stuff and take it apart and put it back together.
Right.
And you know, you're right. That's not
So
something for anybody to just get into. That's a different thing. Swarm calls are different. Pulling them out of a branch, that's a different story than getting into the cutouts. But
yeah, but
I have to say that for me, those cutouts that financed every bit of money that I had to spend on my bees last year. So for
right.
me, that worked out fantastically.
But if you
That
can get dozens
doesn't
of
work out
bees
for
for
everybody.
free, if you
Oh,
can get that in
absolutely.
your first season, and you weren't even starting with any comb, you were starting with just bits and pieces of comb and
Every
wax.
every colony I brought home had nothing to start with. They all built
Yes.
from scratch.
So somebody keeping two hives in their yard can catch two swarms every year, even if they die every year.
Oh,
They're
I'm
not
sure.
hurt. They're not hurting anything.
I'm
They're,
sure they could.
they're, they're not hurting anything by just keeping the bees, getting them prepared for winter and seeing what they got, and
Yep.
then it's they can keep two. I mean, yeah, you're not going to be pollinating almonds by catching swarms every year. Maybe
Yeah.
you are. Who knows? I don't know. I don't want to put a limit on anybody,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I
I don't
had
know.
I pulled six swarms and traps out in different locations. Now, like I said, and like you know, I'm in Philly. I'm in Northeast Philly, in the Tacony section, about a mile north of the bridge. And there's quite a bit of green space up this way. You got Pennypack Park, and New Jersey's less than a half a mile away. Plenty of green space over there. So the bees seem to have plenty of places to go and survive. A lot of maples in this area too. I do have a lot of bullshit ornamental trees that they planted up this way in some of these houses, but there's a lot of gardens up my way as well. And most of those swarms that I caught natural, if you want to call it that, just in traps. Um, I don't think I've lost a single one yet, as far as I can tell. But I'd have to go through and really look at. I haven't gone through and really examined my list yet of what's alive or dead and where it came from and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. It's funny that we were talking about cutouts, and I did this cutout in a barn. I think it actually came from you in Doylestown.
Oh yeah.
Up three sets of scaffolding. I'm 25 feet in the air, and I get everything up on top of the scaffolding, and just getting ready to make my first cut, and they swarmed.
Yeah, I remember
just started pouring out, man. And that was the first swarm that I ever saw in person. And that to me, like, man, that is incredible to see. It's so exhilarating, and I'm getting the goosebumps thinking about it right now. Fortunately, at that time, I had a swarm trap with me, and I was able to catch that swarm and take the rest of the colony, which had a bunch of queen cells. So, doing some of those cutouts, for me, it was really advantageous because, I ended up with, I think, 4 splits from that, all told, when I pulled queen cells and ones that made it, ones that did it. So I ended up with 6 colonies from that one cutout.
Wow.
And that's like, and that's, I had really no idea what I was doing, but I watched so much information about doing splits and just kept it simple. Put a queen cell and a 2-frame, I made those 2-frame queen nukes up. There's mini nukes, and that was really successful for me as far as getting some of these colonies built strong and into 5 frames, and they all went into winter with with a super of honey. So that was something I actually wanted to talk to you about, and I'm glad that I kind of went off track there a little bit. Was what is your feelings about? You see all these people getting a 3-pound package, and they drop it in a 10-frame, and like 3 weeks later, the bees are gone.
Yeah.
It's like, oh boy, nobody tells them about like space.
Well,
do
I'm
you
not
think
gonna
it
lie.
makes? Do you
That's what
think
I
it makes a
did.
difference? Yeah.
I did that. My very first package that I ordered, that I ended up catching a swarm the next day, I think it was. I'm trying to remember back. Yeah, I dumped them into a 10-frame box with a bunch of plastic yellow foundation. They actually stuck around. They were dead a couple months later, but I don't know that that's the worst thing to do. You can put them in something smaller is probably definitely better. 3 pounds of bees. People think 3 pounds of bees is a lot, but I'm sure when you went on swarm calls and once you have a package in your hand, then you see what a real swarm, like a prime swarm is.
Yeah.
There could be 4 packages hanging there at one spot with 2 or 3 queens, and well, not the prime swarm, but later on, oh my God, I had some swarms that were, I don't even want to say how heavy they were. They were so huge, but
yeah.
But I think 3 little pounds of bees, I would, if I was putting something that small, I'd put in a nuke. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Or at least have a divider.
Yep.
Something.
Yep. I think I had 2 that I had to bring home in multiple boxes. But that was because I cut and banded frames, banded comb and frames. And I was trying to separate. I was trying to keep the bees in one and had comb in the other one. But I always kind of laugh at that and just try to rationalize. I always thought that space was giving them too much is too much. Let them a 3-pound package. By the time they build that thing out to 5 frames, it's probably 1.5 pounds. So you put it in a 10-frame. Half those bees are going to be dead before that thing's even close to built out. And then you're just putting that much pressure on the rest of them. And, to me, it just didn't make any sense to put that little amount of bees. And this once again goes back to people and thinking about and doing the research and kind of putting things together a little bit better before they jump into bees. Although, I say that and I jumped in. I jumped in.
Yeah, you gotta wear that.
Full force. And this is only this is my first winter I'm coming through. And I really appreciate you having me on the podcast, because I know you're a serious beekeeper, and I know very serious beekeepers. And by serious, I mean the type of beekeepers that we're trying to be. Let's put it that way. Good, smart management, and just enjoying the experience kind of beekeepers.
Oh, well, I enjoy it. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Opinions vary on everything else, and everybody has the right to that. But I mean, I'm just glad you got going what you got going on, and this season's going to be even crazier than last, I think. Because now, not only are you going to have all those calls coming in, but you're already starting with a pile of bees. So you haven't had any bees swarm in front of you on your yard yet, have you?
No, I haven't had any swarming going on here, but I'm getting prepared. I built a bunch of new boxes, and I'm going to get them set up on the roof, just empty, sitting there, and see what happens if if by chance I get one that throws a swarm. Hopefully they find one of those, because I mean, I work a full-time job. I'm not I'm not watching them all day long. And where I'm at, it's not like, I'm on. For those that don't know, I'm in a warehouse. My bees are on the roof, so it's not like if they take off, they might go on the high tension wires to the train tracks right next to me. It's not like I'm picking swarms off of that.
You might try to do like I did past couple seasons, was erect like some structures that are kind of tree and post like, and just have them all around near the hives, because they'll hang there for a couple hours. You might get lucky coming home from work, and boom, there's one hanging there.
I was thinking of something very similar to that, Bruce. I was thinking, I've seen those guys that do them with the buckets on the PVC. They weight a bucket with concrete, and they put a piece of PVC on the inside, and another piece that it's basically telescopic. One goes inside the other, so you can adjust the height. And they use a bucket as the trap. They'll line the lid with a couple lines of beeswax, and drill a couple holes. And for that purpose, for if they throw a random swarm, hopefully you grab it in one of those and get it into something else before.
Well, yeah, those are the swarm traps, but I mean, just something for them to just hang on.
Well, I worry because my time is inconsistent. With getting home from work. I work in construction. Some days I'm home at 2:30. Some days I'm home at 7:30. So I'm just trying to, I guess, maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I'm worried too much about it. But I was just trying to avoid losing any of them. I'm hoping that putting a bunch of boxes, just random boxes throughout. I was going to hang some on the walls out back. You got to come down and check my place out one of these days.
Yeah, you know what? You've been here two times, I think, and I just don't like traveling in Philly, man. I stress out going there.
I do not blame you.
For me, that's a rough city to navigate in for me. Oh man, but I got to get down there. I know it.
Fortunately, my place is very inconspicuously conspicuous. It's real easy to get to from the major roads, so there's not a whole lot of highway traffic is not the same as downtown traffic or South Philly traffic. But yeah, man, it would be great to have you come down and check the place out. Bring that little terror of a dog down with you, and
oh God, no.
I'll have my boys get him in line a little bit.
We'll have to collab on a YouTube video or something.
That'd be great. Yeah, I would like to do a couple of them. I'd love to come out there and shoot one, and have you come here and shoot one, and vice versa.
All right, cool. So yeah, we've been talking for about almost 50 minutes. We'll start to wrap it up. You want to let anybody know where they can get a hold of you? I know you're at Liberty Bell Beekeepers. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Liberty Bell Beekeepers on any of the social media platforms, as well as YouTube. I try to put as many videos as I can of almost everything that I'm doing. I really think that it's the best part about this, and why I kind of got into it, is because it appeals to me in so many ways. Not only the science and the insects and the outdoors and the whole life cycle and the hardships and the successes. All this stuff is great, but I love to build this stuff too. I mean, that to me is so much fun. And guys like Sam Comfort who are putting the videos out of these dumb little things that you can keep bees in, that you don't have to be crazy and stressed out about. And I really enjoy that part of it. And I try to do, what I do as far as building my basic boxes, but doing these other custom hives and just trying to, show how much fun that I'm really having doing it. And it's not hard to do. You can do it your own way, any way you want to do it, and still have fun and go out and catch your swarms and not worry about bees dying, and get your honey and just enjoy it because it really is a joy to get out there and doing it. So the YouTube videos are probably my biggest outlet. You can hear me blabber on about whatever it is that I'm doing, like we did tonight, and listen to my dogs bark, because there's plenty of that too, and the trains. Yeah, a lot of trains.
All right, sounds good. And as everybody knows, you can find me at ilovebees.buzz or Mite Bomb Beekeeping Podcast on Facebook. All right, Craig, it was good talking to you. And I'll
Great talking to you too, Bruce. I appreciate it.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye.